Thank you guys for hosting me. I know you've been hosting throughout the entire month of April. So we're here at April 16th, learning about Copilot Studio agents. There's one more webinar on the 24th about agents and AI Foundry. And I believe, Jasper, you already uploaded the previous webinars to the website as well, where you can see on our HLS blog. Perfect. Again, as Michael mentioned, any questions, please go ahead and post them in the Q&A. Otherwise, I'll kind of get started today. We'll go through some slides. We'll talk a little bit through slides, and then we'll jump into the actual demo. For brief introductions, Melissa Nelly here, Power Platform Specialist. I cover all things in Power Plat, including things like Copilot Studio. So I'm really excited to walk everybody today through Copilot Studio specifically. So you might have been learning more about other Copilots across the entire field, but today we're going to talk about Copilot Studio, which is our platform where you can go ahead and extend existing Copilots or create your own net new custom Copilot. So we are going to go through a bit of an introduction, talk about why people are using Copilots and the benefits that they've seen, discuss capabilities, and then jump into a demo. If we have time, we'll probably just send over the industry use cases and maybe some of the governance pieces. If we have time, we'll jump into things like governance as well. I know we only have an hour and there might be some questions in the chat. So we'll see how much we get through, but we definitely want to get through a demonstration. Awesome. So we know right now there's a really big opportunity for agents in the space when it comes to employee productivity, and then our end customers, whether that be patients or HCPs as well. We've seen, organizations have over an 18% improvement in customer satisfaction and employee productivity when they use tools or invest in AI. 70% of employees would delegate as much work as possible to AI to lessen their workloads if they could. And we know that enterprises, when they leverage personalized technology skills they could drive over $1 trillion in productivity gains by 2026, really enabling by enabling Gen AI and automation everywhere. When it comes to customers, we know that 30% of customers will try using digital assistants to interact with customer service on their behalf. I'm sure now every time you go to a website, whether it's in the healthcare space or the retail space, you probably do see some sort of chat that's available for you to engage with so that you don't have to take that first phone call. And we do see kind of an 80 billion potential reduction in agent labor costs by 2026 when it comes to contact centers and call centers. I actually am going to talk a little bit about that today in the demo. We'll talk about our end users, whether that be external patients or internal, maybe HCPs that work in a hospital. How can they do things like contact customer service through a Copilot? So whether that be engaging with service centers like tools like ServiceNow or pulling in from knowledge hubs like tools like Confluence, we'll take a look at how we can kind of set up a customer service agent that can help with things like HR and IT. We know that there are organizations that do want to engage with us and they do want to start building with Copilot and using AI, but there are things that come into play when it comes to building agents. We know that there's things like budget and time constraints, infrastructure and hosting and resources can be a problem, maybe technical expertise, security and compliance. We're going to cover off on a lot of that today. So when it comes to like technical expertise, Copilot Studio sits in the Power Platform, which is our low code solution. So we are going to showcase how we can kind of describe it to design it when we want to build an agent. And then when it comes to things like security, risk, and compliance, again, because we are within the Power Platform, which sits within Azure, we'll talk about ways in which we can secure our custom Copilots. So what is an agent, right? And why build an agent? You're hearing this a lot. On the left-hand side, we start with M365, our Microsoft Copilot. So Copilots that exist right now that are ready to deploy, that are pre-built by Microsoft, like we are in a Teams meeting right now. There's a Copilot here that's summarizing and recording this session. And then after it, it'll tell us the summarization and say, okay, Melissa said this at the meeting. It might capture some notes and some user information as well. That's an M365 Microsoft pre-built Copilot. It's embedded in our Microsoft solution. So things like Teams, things like Excel, things like Word. There is a Microsoft Copilot there enabled for you, and it's embedded in your enterprise data. Now, let's say you want to create a Copilot that's not, enabled with your enterprise data, and maybe you want to give it additional data or knowledge sources, and you want to have it run outside of Microsoft, so outside of Teams. Maybe this is for external users. Maybe this is for somebody outside of your organization. You want to deploy against your applications or maybe a custom website. Agents and custom agents allow you to do that. You're able to deploy outside of M365, and you're able to automate and execute your business processes. And you're able to meet people where they are. So again, if they're in M365, that's great. You can use the M365 Copilot. But again, we enable you to deploy those agents and meet those personnel where they are in their workday, or however they're engaging with you in your business. We can deploy across various channels. Now, there's a spectrum of agents and what agents can do. So there's retrieval, task, and autonomous agents. So when it comes to retrieval, this is simply just retrieving and summarizing information. So maybe taking a knowledge source, maybe you have a SharePoint and you want to summarize that information and ground your Copilot in that knowledge source and then get a summary. That's going to be our typical retrieval AI conversational bot. When it comes to task-based, now let's say you want to connect to a third-party tool and open up an IT ticket. So that is something that an agent can do. It could go ahead and complete that task for you utilizing one of our out-of-the-box workflows. We're connected to tools like Power Automate. There's about 1,700 out-of-the-box connectors. I could post those connectors in the chat. We have pre-built ones. You could build your own custom connectors, but that enables your agent to go ahead and complete a task on your behalf. You tell it what to do. I want to open up an IT ticket. Now, autonomous agents, which became generally available around the March timeframe, it allows you to operate independently and dynamically and orchestrate agents against one another and then learn and escalate. So if you had multiple agents and multiple tasks, it could go ahead and do that on its own. I'll show you a preview of that. It's going to be based off of the autonomous triggers. So we'll take a look at those triggers as well, so you can see how we could set those up. And again, just some examples of this is the IT agent help desk, being able to connect to a corporate network, right? So how do I connect to a corporate network? What's the status of this project, right? These are just getting information and then summarizing it. If you want a device refresh, maybe, hey, I need a new device. Can you open up a ticket for me so I get a new device? That is more task-based. And then lastly, more advanced is that autonomous agent lead gen, where it's, hey, I've identified 15 new leads for you today. Or maybe a customer support agent is able to identify an issue before it happens and triage that issue before anyone even calls in. So that's sort of advanced in where autonomous is. Additionally, as I mentioned, Copilot Studio is our low-code tool that's allowing you to build custom agents, but also extend to M365. So if you do have Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can go ahead and extend that from the Copilot Studio main centralized platform. That's our centralized hub where you can go ahead and do those extensions. You can go ahead and automate workflows, access everything in one place, and then connect your data across your company as well. We're looking to create chat experiences that are intelligent and secure, fully automated, customizable, and collaborative. So you can go ahead and share with other team members as well. I'll talk a little bit about sharing if we get to governance. And then, lastly, we do have, more than 160,000 customers who are using Copilot across every industry, whether that's someone like PayPal or Accenture. It's helping to kind of increase or improve efficiency and reduce costs, again, because this is a low-code solution, and it does have its own Copilot within it to help you kind of describe it, to design it so you can deploy pretty quickly. One of the use cases that we can share out is just the annual savings that PG&E saw, where they saw 150 human hours saved per week and almost 1.1 million in annual company savings by using Copilot. So they created a Copilot for their customer service agents, and they were able to see value across the organization. We can share an entire full stats of customer success stories after this as well, and I'll also post in some of the connectors that we have. Really quickly before we jump into a demo, some of the things that you're going to see today from a design perspective, um, you're going to kind of see how easy it is to sort of build the way you want, to create automated workflows, to customize your agent and design personalized responses. We're going to be able to do that with our out-of-the-box agents. So we do have templates that are available for you. That's in preview. You could build agents using natural language. So again, I could describe it to design it. I could say, hey, I'd like you to create an agent for me that handles HR escalations. I could just type that straight in. So if you're using other Microsoft tools, you'll probably notice natural language is available for you. It'll go ahead and build the kind of agent that it thinks it should build. And then it also has a pretty easy to use UX and UI. If you do need to use Pro Code, there is the Agent SDK. You can go ahead and expand this from a Pro Code perspective. As I mentioned, we do have some preview features as far as out-of-the-box pre-built copilots go. So we do have some templates. There are more that are coming soon, but these are pre-built and purposeful built to handle things like awards and recognitions, self-help benefits. I'm going to show you a benefits copilot that I created from scratch, so we could take a look at that. And then lastly here, before I want to jump into a demonstration, you can customize using things like knowledge, actions, logic, and channels. Knowledge, really quickly, that is going to enable you to ground your copilot in the information that matters. So what information will the copilot need to be successful? That could be public data, that could be enterprise data. It just all depends on how you want users to access that data. We can also support things like SharePoint, the Dataverse, Fabric. We have enterprise data connectors as well. I know that there's more that are coming soon, but you could build your own connector if needed. And then I would just say for things like SharePoint and the Dataverse, we're going to respect the Entra ID security settings that you have. So if I go into a bot that has SharePoint access, I'm not going to be able to access the SharePoint site if I don't have access. So it's not going to give me back a response. It's going to have me authenticate into the bot. And if I authenticate in and don't have access to SharePoint, I shouldn't see any information. So we'll showcase that a little bit today as well. And then with actions, again, I mentioned about 1,500 plus Power Platform connectors. This is where we want our bot to like complete a task for us, right? So we have these pre-built actions within the solution. We have our Power Automate connectors. You can create your own custom connector, but this is going to enable your agent to automate a business task. So you can go ahead and have it complete those processes or those tasks. And then lastly, from a logic perspective, you can actually define and have control over step-by-step for how you want the agent to interact. I'll show a little bit of this in the description for my agent. So I'm actually going to give it a really specific description of the steps I want it to complete the task. I'm going to say, hey, an email is going to come to your inbox. I want you to read the email first before responding. Then I want you to check your knowledge sources. Then I want you to respond. So I can go ahead and give it sort of that step-by-step instructions, but I can also design step-by-step instructions in a topic as well, so I can control the flow of a conversation. And then lastly, I talked about autonomous agents. They can, again, go ahead and be based off of triggers. So maybe I have a shared HR email inbox, and maybe someone emails that inbox and says, what are my benefits? I could actually have an agent on the back end go ahead and go through my knowledge sources and respond to that email without having somebody even interact with the actual chatbot. So autonomous agents can really be set up however you choose based on a trigger. That trigger can be anything that you choose. The bot will go ahead and use the information that you provide it. Again, in the scenario that I'm going to walk you through, once a trigger is initiated, I actually gave the agent really specific instructions what to do once that trigger happens. Or you could just let the bot use the AI to determine what the best next steps are. And lastly, the last thing that we have sort of in preview here around deep reasoning with Copilot Studio. If you are using Copilot Studio in the settings, you might see a little toggle for deep reasoning with Copilot Studio, which gives you access to more advanced models. So this will allow you to kind of utilize um, the ability to kind of break down complex problems step by step and ensuring that there's thorough and a logical resolution to the process. So again, you'll get access to more advanced models. That's something that you do have to turn on in the settings. I will show you that. It's in preview right now, but you can turn that on and you can see that in preview, and we could take a look at our release documentation for when that will be out of preview. But it's to help enhance decision making using those more advanced models when there's more complex decision making involved. And again, before we jump into the demo, just the difference again here between M365 Copilot and Copilot Studio, you are able to publish custom Copilots across various channels. So you're not, stuck only posting to M3, anything across the Microsoft suite. You're able to deploy across your various channels and custom channels as well. Any questions in the chat before I jump over to the demonstration? I'm just going to take a look at the chat real quick and see if there's anything. Anything, team?
Seeing any questions?
I see one question around, would it be possible to include Figma or Miro into an external data source? That's not one that we have as a connector right now. I could take a look if it's a Power Automate connector. If it's a Power Automate connector, we can use a Power Automate flow. As a knowledge source, I don't see that as a connector today. So I'll have to check if it's a Power Automate connector and get back to you. But if it is one, then you would just use a Power Automate flow or create a custom connector. On Webflow, I don't see a channel for that, but again, you can create your own custom channels as well. So we'll take a look at that when it comes to the deployment in the channel section. If it's not an out-of-the-box channel, you can just create your own custom deployment. Awesome. So jumping into the demonstration, just really quickly taking a look at Copilot Studio. I have an Ask HR bot here that I'm going to start with. And you can see a couple things at the top: overview, knowledge sources, topics, actions, activities, analytics, and channels. So we're going to focus primarily on this bot before we take a look at an IT ticketing bot. I have a really robust description here. You can also give instructions as well. That could be through code or through text. I gave it really specific instructions. You are an HR bot here to help employees ask about their benefits, courses, and time off. Employees might email and ask what their out-of-pocket payment is. For this request, again, if this comes to an email, I'd like you to search the knowledge database after you've parsed the email and email back the user with the information from the knowledge articles that you found. And then I've asked it to email in a friendly greeting and include a short description of employee benefits. So you can get really descriptive here. This is your prompting. This is where you're going to make sure the bot stays in line to behave exactly how you want it to. You can provide additional instructions as well. I've left on generative orchestration. So if I have actions that I want the bot to take, generative orchestration is going to use AI to determine the next best action, and you'll see that as well. From a knowledge perspective, excuse me, I have the ability to either drag and drop and add files here as knowledge sources to ground the Copilot in. I could ground it in public websites, SharePoint, Dataverse. And then some enterprise data, I can use things like Azure Search, SQL, Confluence, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Zendesk. We also have some available connectors in Graph Connectors. We can post that in the chat as well. But these are some of our out-of-the-box knowledge sources that you can use to ground the data for your Copilot. I've grounded this Copilot very specifically in a SharePoint site that has access to all of my HR documentation. And then I have a couple of actions. So for these actions, I'm using a mix of things like Power Automate flows, and then I'm also using the out-of-the-box actions that are within the solution. So send an email, that's an out-of-the-box action. I want an email to be sent. I have some flows for HR where if somebody asks a question about an onboarding buddy, I want to email the HR person in charge and say, hey, Melissa's requesting a new HR buddy. Or maybe I want to get the status of my equipment, and that comes from a database for employees, so I can see what the status is of maybe a new laptop. I want to reach into that database, so I'm using a Power Automate flow to reach back into that database. When I go back to my overview here, you'll also notice that I do have a trigger set up. This is, again, what helps make the bot sort of autonomous. When an email arrives, I want the bot to parse that email like I gave it in the instructions, and go ahead and send an email back with the information from the knowledge sources that we have here. So let's just test this bot really quickly. Let's just ask it some simple questions. I'm going to say new onboarding buddy. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, my screen's going to change a bit because it's actually going to go through the steps and showcase where it's getting the onboarding buddy information from, and it's actually parsing through a topic. So it says, it's asking me some questions. What quality do you want in a new onboarding buddy? Would you prefer, and I'm going to say new buddy, and it's 2:54 p.m. my time, just so you guys know. That this email is coming through in a timely fashion. So it's processing that, and it's going to email my HR manager and say, hey, Melissa requested a new buddy. So let's see when that email comes through here. Give it a second. We could take a look at the topic it went through as well. So let's go through my topics here. And you can see onboarding buddy. I've actually dictated the flow of this conversation. Now, you don't have to do that because I have generative AI turned on, which means it's actually going to go through all the actions that I have and make sure it picks the right action. But you could see it went step by step through this, and it went through and sent an email and said, thanks, we've alerted your manager. So I set this up specifically to capture this very specific topic that an employee wants a new onboarding buddy, but it's not necessarily something that you have to do if you have it set up as an action. So multiple ways to structure conversations as actions and letting the bot take charge, or being really prescriptive in a topic. Like maybe, for instance, you might have patients come through and say, I'm having arm pain, right? Arm pain, we want them to speak to a physician immediately. So there's certain things that you could set off as triggers and orchestrate a topic so that it goes down the exact path that you want it based on what the topic of conversation is. Now, let's take a look at another question. Let's say, when will my laptop be delivered? So now it's going through one of my other flows as well. And you can see it actually went through one of my actions. The action was users will ask about device types, and you should respond with the device name and the delivery date. Now, this action, just so you guys know, was not within a topic. You can see it doesn't say topic here. It was listed under my actions, but because, again, generative AI is turned on, the bot went through all of the actions that I had. It looked at my request, when will my laptop be delivered? And it said, okay, I know that this is the equipment status action that I need to utilize. And it went ahead and used that action and pulled the information from my database to let me know that my Surface Pro will be delivered on June 13th. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to refresh the bot so you can see that I'm not engaging with it. I'm not utilizing it. In my overview, I've asked it, you're the HR bot. If you get an email to the HR inbox, respond via email. So you can see here's that new onboarding buddy email that came through. If you remember, I asked for a new that went through to my HR manager. So now let's email HR, and let's say, I'm going to email an HR inbox and say, what are my HMO out-of-pocket benefits for Northwind Standard, which is just my insurance company that I made up here. So I'm going to email and say, what are my benefits? That's going to hit the HR inbox here. So you can see, okay, somebody's asking what their benefits are. I'm not going to touch anything. The bot here is grounded in the correct knowledge. So it's grounded in knowledge from SharePoint. And again, step by step, it knows it should parse the body of the email, determine what my insurance type is, search my knowledge sources for the right benefits, and then use the send an email action, letting the employee know what their out of pocket maximum is. So I've asked it to summarize the knowledge sources, and then I've asked it to go a step further and to utilize this action. So it's actually utilizing this action on my behalf without someone even interacting. And you probably just heard the beep there. No one interacted with the actual bot. So it says, hi there, your out of the pocket maximum for Northwind Standard is $6,000 per person. So it went ahead and orchestrated all of that based on the instructions that I gave it, and it went ahead and utilized that action as well. Any questions in the chat? I'm going to take a look at analytics and channels before we move on. I'm going to start from.
There was one about, well, actually, there is a couple. Hold on.
There's a few.
Yeah, I saw one said I ran into an agent with an issue with an agent I built, takes a PDF, only works in Studio. If I deploy it as an app, it does not work. Is it right that file upload in Copilot is not supported yet?
It is. So if you've uploaded directly here, uploaded this file, that means that anybody that has access to the bot has access to that file. So the only thing that I would check there, Jacob, is I would check from a licensing perspective if you have the appropriate license when you deploy it to actually start consuming messages. Because that's the only reason why I could see why the PDF wouldn't show up.
Then we have another one. What's the LLM model that powers the AI agent? And if the LLM stores data, where would the location be?
So you can turn on storing of the transcripts in the Microsoft Dataverse. And the latest is 4.0, GPT 4.0, I believe. So whatever the latest model is, I'll get that to you, but I believe it's 4.0. But again, all those transcripts for the bot, the conversations that you're having, you could store that in the Dataverse. How do I ensure an agent? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yep, I'm just reading Jacob's last one. How do I ensure that an agent triggers a topic from an external trigger, like when an email arrives, for instance, generative answers and research about the customer for prospecting? I think I'd have to learn a little bit more about this one, Jacob. We could definitely follow up with the account team that you work with as far as triggering the agent. That triggers are set here. And so you have to let the trigger know and give it that sort of description for, when it should operate. And so I told the bot when to use this specific trigger for something like when an email arrives. I also gave it really specific instructions for the type of emails that might come through, like what are my benefits, and then what it should take from the contents of that email. So you do have to do a little bit of setup for the trigger and let it know what to look for when an email arrives. I gave it subject filters to look through, like what are my benefits. So it's really just about setting up that trigger and then defining it and then adding that to the instructions of the bot. Hopefully that helps.
Yep, and that's the last question.
Cool. Awesome, good questions. Lastly, we'll get to channels. I'll showcase the settings just for some folks who've never seen it before. But again, channels here, we can deploy across various channels, teams, demo website, custom website, customer engagement hubs, escalating to things like Genesis, Salesforce, ServiceNow, or a custom customer engagement hub. You can go ahead and set that up. When you go to settings, this is going to be where you're able to moderate the generative AI. So this is where you can turn things on, like how strict should the AI be? Do you want users to be able to upload images to the AI to provide responses? That's something that you can turn on. You can use classic mode, which is really just dependent on topics. So again, a topic is something I showed you. It's like really prescriptive. I hurt my arm. Great. See a physician immediately. Or do you want to use generative responses using AI to respond with the best combinations of actions, topics, and knowledge? And then lastly, this is a preview feature. We do have enhanced search results um, for M365 Copilot tenants. And then we also have using deep reasoning, which is more advanced, excuse me, advanced models. I could post in the chat what those advanced models are so you can see what you would have access to. But that these are things that you could, again, turn on and off. And it's also on the main page of the Copilot as well. Security, this is where you're going to be able to set up authentication. So either through web channel security or through things like Entra ID. So we can go back here. You can see you could have no authentication, authenticate through Microsoft, or authenticate manually and set up authentication for one of your other channels. And then we could do things like voice and languages as well. So there's additional languages you can add as well. And then where Gen AI is on the homepage, here I have it enabled, so Gen AI orchestration. And then I also have enabled allow AI to use its own general knowledge, just kind of supplement additional knowledge sources. So you can decide to turn those on and off as needed. And you can see like I can't publish this, like I don't have the access to publish this. It's telling me there's a risk. I'm not going to go ahead and publish this for the purposes of today. Lastly, before we take a look at our IT agent, I'll just showcase analytics, and let me just change this. And while this loads for the last 90 days, I see there's another question. Do you have information? Yeah, so for anything not yet supported, I'd have to check with product. I could try to get back to you on that. But usually within our release planners, you could see the next upcoming releases. But I could try to reach out to product for that. To learn more about using Copilot Studio step by step, I would definitely start in our Learn documentation. We also have some in-a-day workshops and resources that we could share as well. So I can work with Jaspreet to make sure those get sent out before the end of this conversation. Awesome. This is taking a little bit to load, so I'm going to just pop over to one of my other bots that I have here. What you're going to see differently with this bot, you can see it says, how can I assist you? I'm being really prescriptive in what people can and can't do here. I'm making them have to click a button. So this is called an adaptive card. You could design these for however makes sense for you and your business organization. If you want people to type in information or to click through a path or a process, I could do something like check ticket status. And you can see it's going to respond with my IT ticket status. For this, I'm just using ServiceNow, but you could use other solutions like Confluence. It's telling me here's my open ticket statuses. I can say, maybe I have an IT question. I could say, what is spam? And it'll go ahead and show me a summary of what spam is from my various knowledge articles that I have. I have Confluence set up as well, so I can showcase that. But you can see I'm able to kind of get my ticket response here along with a summary and where it found that knowledge article from. Now, if I want to create a ticket, again, I want to have a bi-directional conversation with this API. I want to put information back into my IT ticketing tool. I could say, SQL is down. These questions that it's asking me are all going to depend on the back end of your IT ticketing tool. So you could determine what questions it asks. I'm going to say not working. I'm going to give it high urgency, and now it's going to process, and it's going to say, okay, this is your ticket, your incident number. So I went ahead and input that information into the ticketing system. So again, you could have, using Power Automate, you could have a bi-directional conversation across this API. You could get information back and get a summary, and then you could push information downstream into those solutions as well. So I'm using Power Automate here to illustrate that. And then I'm using what's called as adaptive cards here to kind of design this look and feel. Analytics is still, I don't know why analytics won't load for me. There we go. Okay. This is, oh, and I just hit refresh. This is a demo environment, right? So I'm not going to have a ton of different engagement, but you'll be able to see your your conversation sessions. We're increasing the ability to look at knowledge sources and see which knowledge sources are more widely used than others. So if there's more that are being utilized or providing better responses, you could go ahead and see that in the analytics. It's just taking a second to load here. Let's see if I could grab it on this one. I think there's another question in the chat as well. Yeah, so for like things like trigger phrases, you do only have to give it about 5 trigger phrases, and then typically it'll pick up on the user intent. So it'll use AI to determine the user intent there. And it'll only do, you only need about 5 trigger phrases to give it there. Voice can be connected. It depends on what you're using. So you can use tools like Azure Communication Services. You can use tools like Genesis if you need to escalate to an agent. So we can go ahead and connect to various solutions for that. And Michael posted the Learn documentation as well. So thank you for that. We won't have time to do the UI design of an agent. So like something like an adaptive card, we'd have to cover off on that in like another session. Are you trying to design something specific outside of a custom adaptive agent? Is there something you're looking to do specifically? Okay, if you want to type that in the chat, I'll take a look at it. Yeah, for some reason it just wiped the dates that I picked for these analytics, but you'll see kind of the outcomes of the agent where things escalated or resolved, what knowledge sources were highly used, if there was an action that was used, and then user satisfaction. We do have a user satisfaction topic where you can pick a thumbs up, thumbs down topic, and that you could have that kind of be after every single one if you wanted to, after every single question and answer. It's just going to depend on your design, but you can see sort of that user feedback. And again, any conversation that you want can be stored in the Dataverse. Let's see what other questions we have here.
Yeah, they were asking about specific brand aligning to brand guidelines.
Yeah, I think we'd have to cover off on that in another session if it's specific. But we can definitely work with you to find out who your technical specialist lead is, and we can get back to you on that. I'm just taking a note of the information here. Any other questions before we cover off on governance? Okay, so again, this is the centralized dashboard that you're also going to use to extend M365 Copilot. So if you do have M365 Copilot and you want to extend those agents, you could do that here. You could add in further actions, and then you can share your agents as well, all from a centralized location. You can continue to enhance this Copilot with pro developer tools. So you can integrate with Azure AI Foundry, AI Search, and the AI Model Catalog for greater control and customization of your bot. So if you do have data that's within AI Azure Search, you can go ahead and incorporate that. You can analyze your agent's performance with built-in analytics. We kind of showcase some of those. And then with some of our analytics that you can see are in preview, we're trying to help you kind of fine tune what knowledge sources are working and which aren't so that you can optimize the conversation. So some of those analytics are in preview, but you saw a little bit of that today. We can post when preview features will be released so you could have access to that. And again, because we are within one ecosystem, if you do need to access, Azure AI, it is available for you. You can have control over that stack. You can use tools like GitHub. Copilot Studio is a SaaS offering, right? So it's fully managed by us. You can be licensed in 2 ways, either pay as you go, or you can do a subscription per month for your entire tenant. But again, if you want to extend using Azure, you can do that as well. And again, these are some of the insights that we're looking to expand upon. So these are in preview, but we're trying to get more and more information for when users either escalate, abandon, or if there's resolution rates that you might need to take a look at for these specific copilots. We want to be able to give you access to gain insights into your most commonly asked questions. And then things like CSAT data, user feedback, knowledge sources used, that's incorporated to the session count as well. And you can see also if AI didn't successfully return an answer. From a management perspective, because it is a SaaS platform, we are, helping to eliminate infrastructure concerns and helping you to scale. You can ensure your agent is compliant across all the regulatory standards listed here. You're able to kind of safeguard your enterprise data. So again, you can determine how you incorporate knowledge. So whether you upload directly and everybody has access to the knowledge sources if they have access to that bot, or if you have them connect and authenticate to those knowledge sources, that's a decision that you can make as well. And then again, Microsoft has responsible AI guidelines to protect against things like prompt injections. We could send information around AI responsibility at Microsoft as well. We have a global footprint in 26 data centers worldwide. But again, what I just wanted to hit home from a security perspective is that Copilot Studio is a member of the Power Platform. So a lot of what you've seen today, when I talked about actions and flows, I was using tools like Power Automate. I was using Power Automate to have that bi-directional conversation with my IT ticketing service to say, hey, I want to know my ticket status, and then I also want to open up a ticket. I have access to other tools like Power Apps, Power Pages, Power BI. And then lastly, all of the data for Copilot Studio, just like within all the Power Platform, it sits within the Dataverse. So all of this is completely integrated. You'll notice Copilot in your other tools like Power Automate also has a describe it to design it. Now, because it's in the Power Platform, you'll have access to govern from the Power Platform Admin Center. And then if you govern from managed environments, you can do things like set up DLP policies. So you can basically say, this environment, I only want it to have access to these specific connectors. And then you can also control by a licensing perspective, what environment has licenses or which one doesn't. But you can set up those guardrails, view your analytics, and then sort of govern at scale. And then lastly, we kind of implore you to build your own center of excellence, which is a group of people that will manage copilots. But then we also have our center of excellence toolkit that helps to govern and provide additional analytics as needed. When we think about a center of excellence, it's not just about the toolkit that gives you the proper analytics to govern and monitor, but we want to really be mindful of who should have access to what environments and what tenants. And we definitely want to be setting up our environment strategy as well, so that we know which environment should have access to which DLP policies and which connectors they should be able to engage with. Just some examples of potentially what an environment can look like, or setting up an environment. You might have dev, test, prod. In that you might have access to Copilot Studio, Power Automate. That's going to sit on the Dataverse, and then you're going to have maybe connectors that you want to restrict or have access to. So at the tenant level, you'll have Azure conditional access. At the environment level, you'll have environment roles. So people will have their own roles and responsibilities. But then you also can control resource permissions. So what flows or connectors in the Copilot do individuals have access to? And then what tables do they have access to in the Dataverse? You can set up Dataverse security roles as well. And then also you can determine who has access cross tenants, which I think is a little bit less likely. So it's really important to kind of set up your environments, specify your region, secure your environments by determining which user groups can access that environment, define roles and strategy. So, who can make, share apps, what are the connectors that people have access to? Your admins will have the complete ability to administer the environment. And again, this is really important for Copilot Studio because it allows you to kind of lock down who's publishing without authentication, maybe. Is somebody publishing a bot without authentication? You might need to set up permissions to do that, to publish with custom authentication. DLPs are controlled at the environment or tenant level. So again, this is really important to enforce that so that we know who's using what in what environment, make sure that they're not using generative AI if it's not an improved environment. And again, just having people go through the request process so that you know what's going to be published in those production environments as well is super helpful. Any questions in the chat? I'm going to go to the chat really quickly. Okay, let me look.
Yeah, I saw one was just about a free trial, if that's available, and for how long?
We do have free trials. I can share that with you. I think it expires in 30 days. I'll have to triple check. But it does typically expire. So we can share that with you. Yep, 30-day trial. Any other questions that we have here?
That's all I'm saying for new.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I think we got through the bulk of, what I really wanted to show today. I'm just going to skip through this because this is a video. And I showed you guys this already. We actually walked through a lot of this already. It's just going to walk you through how you can set up your environments appropriately too. But I could share this out at the end. So again, just lastly, the last thing that I'll showcase here, what we were able to see today is the ability to kind of build, publish, analyze, and improve with Copilot Studio. So again, building that custom Copilot, you kind of saw how easy it was within this solution. We have tools like Describe It to Design It to help you create something super easy. We've chatted with Knowledge and used generative AI. So again, we had Gen AI kind of respond back to us, but then we also had generative orchestration turned on so that all of my topics that were there, the bot went ahead and used AI to determine what would be the best fit for the conversation. We had some actions built and some connectors built. The only thing we didn't showcase was connecting with AI Foundry, but that was one of the knowledge sources that we had available. But we did take a look at our channels and our analytics as well. If there's no other questions, I think that's it for me. Otherwise, Michael and I can kind of follow up with the group here who needed additional support.
And I saw somebody just posted, let's see, our Copilot DLP policies different than the DLP policies set up within the admin site for apps and Automate?
No, they're not. They're at the same environment level. So if the Copilot's in a specific environment, you'll set up the DLP policies for that specific environment, and the Copilot will have access to those connectors.
That looks like it's it.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. And we'll be posting the recording from today's session online. And then Melissa, if you can just send me that deck, I'll make sure it's a PDF attached.
You got it.
All right. Well, have a great day, everybody.
Talk to you soon.